Yeah. All right. People gonna be like, dang, again. So dang, again. What's going on, world? It's your boy at Big Game James _36 of the Sports Den. They're probably one of the realest radio shows when it comes to covering the NFL and the Jags with arguably, I wouldn't even say arguably, I'll give you the props. I believe the best Jags insider on Twitter, or at least in the area, E Dilla, at E_Dilla on the Twitter. I don't know if you want to give people your face, but I think that's too personal when people get the Facebook stuff. I mean, if they actually
yeah, it's cool. I don't even use Facebook that much, so no big
okay.
deal.
So, anyways, man, what's going on, man? We've always wanted to have you on. Listen, you have full access to call the show whenever you want. You tell JJ, because JJ's a fan. JJ wanted to big you up for the schedule reveal, but they wouldn't let him. Just to let you know that. So I didn't want.
They wouldn't let me do it, huh?
He wanted to make sure you didn't feel disrespected, but because I guess we're the station of the Jaguars and whatnot, they didn't want to make it feel like we were leaking the schedule. If we had been there, we wouldn't have given a damn because the Jags don't write nan check for me. So, but we wanted to just introduce yourself and let people know, whatever you can do. But again, like I said, it's a lot of stuff that we see on Twitter, and I give respect because that's kind of how I cut my teeth. Similar into a lot of this stuff is I got good insight and good information from some good sources, and I started putting it out. And the first thing that people do when you do that is they hate on you or they try to belittle you until they find out that you're consistently right. So, and you're not right 100% of the time, but nobody who covers is right 100% of the time. But you're right enough to where the Sports Den will definitely give you enough love. So, introduce yourself, man. Tell us, drop the tag and all the other stuff real quick before we get going.
Yeah, man. So I'm just Dilla, E_Dilla on Twitter, E_Dilla. I'm just a Jag fan who has a little bit of the inside knowledge. Couple people in the know, maybe on two hands worth, and they tell me some good stuff. And I just want people to know what's going on. No real public gain, like you said. A lot of people love to hate the start. I used to get trashed on Reddit up and down. And now I dropped that schedule, and there was not a single hate response. So it's kind of funny how things change. But overall, just a regular dude. I'm a Jag fan. I'm not in sports media. I don't plan on getting in sports media, but I do kind of know what's going on more often than not.
Please don't get in because I like my job and I don't want any more competition or whatnot. I just follow you and I'll just be like, I'll just talk with conviction like I broke it or something like that. But definitely I learned a valuable lesson. And I just did a pod with my mom about where she told me stop reading my stuff, my clippings. But boy, I read something on me on Reddit with FSU. You would think I did not play at FSU. The way that some of those people talk about you, man, but too much time on their hands. So how long? So talk to me about the process of being a Jag. Are you local? Are you from Jacksonville?
Yeah, from Jacksonville. Went to Sandalwood. Been here my whole life. I mean, grew up out towards the beaches. Played baseball growing up, and went to college down south for a little bit. But came back home working in Jacksonville. I'd probably be here the whole way through.
So you was a fan from was it 94 when they made the announcement?
Yeah, I think 93, late 93 they made it. I was born in 91, so Jaguars are kind of like my whole life. You know what I mean? I don't really remember a life without the Jaguars.
Facts. Gotcha. Definitely understand that. So basically, I mean that's what makes it even dope. I mean, even better is that it's coming from a perspective of purely you're like the Robin Hood of insider. You're just giving free game because you feel like the people can have an idea of what's going on.
Yeah, essentially that. Like kind of when I kind of assumed I was gonna get the schedule early, and I didn't really have plans on leaking it out to just straight up top to bottom on Twitter. But as the day kind of started carrying on, and the more they were pushing that 3-hour schedule show, and we know what they're gonna do to the Jaguars on ESPN. We're gonna get our 15-second run, and they might talk about us when we're playing a big market team, but in general, they're not going to give us any runs. So why not just save everybody's time? Here's the schedule top to bottom, and they let all the teams tweet it out 30 minutes before the show anyway. So it's not like I was, impeding on anyone. So I just wanted people to know, free up that Thursday night or whatever it was, give people their afternoon back.
Oh man, and again, it's all one thing that people like is breaking news. So they love to be able to be the first to know, and they love to be able to, be able to push it, push that agenda. But so I don't even understand why people act like it's the end of the world. But you've been on par with the with Fournette. You've been on par with the Jalen situation, the Jalen saga. You've been on par with the Unique saga. Tell us what you know or what you can tell us about the 2019 season, essentially. And did all of this stuff really start in 2019? Was it, or when did the chaos actually start?
So 2017 was our good run when they were winning. Everything was golden, just as you'd assume. I mean, when you're winning, there's no problems. You know what I mean? They roll into 2018, and I guess that's kind of when it started. I guess the whole downfall kind of started when they re-signed Bortles. You know what I mean? That was kind of the beginning of the end, I would say, in terms of when things started going down. Players who maybe should have got signed, kind of like looking, well, why is this guy getting money he maybe doesn't deserve? And then that kind of led into Miles Jack getting paid, them not paying Jan, Jalen's whole, downfall, which Jalen's whole saga feels like it was 5 years ago at this point. To me, anyway, I feel like that was so long ago, but it was just last season. I mean, he got traded after week 4, I guess, the Broncos game.
Yeah.
So I would say probably the guys getting paid that maybe not I shouldn't say deserve, because I'm not going to try and say who deserves money and who doesn't deserve money, but the better players on the team not getting paid kind of set the precedent, I guess.
Right. That Bortles one kind of really did rub a lot of people the wrong way. And it was weird because they went from it being like a try to keep the core nucleus on the defense together to F that, like every man for himself. And I believe, in my opinion, and it wasn't so much of a hatred of Miles Jack, it's that Miles Jack wasn't supposed to be the first one to get paid. Yeah, he should have got paid. Then Miles, and probably Jalen, understanding that they were going to take him through that process, but at least but once they saw Miles get paid, all right, now it's about, okay, well, I need my money. And the infamous line that Jalen gave to my guy Rick Ballou, "There's always money, my guy. The money's always there, my guy."
That's true. And at the end of the day, it's all about their bank account. You know what I mean? I mean, sure, they're there to play the game. They like playing the game of football, but they're trying to better themselves, better their family, the new opportunities. I mean, Unique's his whole situation has to do with setting his family up and him not getting paid when he felt he should have been paid. Like you said, I mean, that it just starts the snowball and goes on and on and on. And once it's too big, you're not stopping it.
Right. I mean, definitely. And I think I think also a lot of stuff with people not knowing who to trust. A lot of the things the feedback that I was getting back is who's in charge. Is it ultimately Shaw's decision? Is it Tom's decision? Is it Dave's decision? Or is it Doug's decision? And in a lot of overstepping boundaries and a lack of a consistent chain of command can breed contempt and also can breed confusion, which when you deal with a bunch of guys who are really, what I need to let people know is that we talk about maturity and words in sports with very little context. I'm 30. I'll be 36 years old by the summer. I played when I was 22 years old when I was in the NFL. I don't know how many. I made a lot of dumb decisions. And I still make dumb decisions at 36. So when we talk about my money, when it comes to immaturity, like we act like there's a bunch of 40, 50-year-old men, because when we think about millionaires and six-figure salaries, we typically think about older people, but we got to remember that these are a bunch of young alpha males with a bunch of testosterone and hormones still flowing that are used to being able to bully their way into any given situation. So you have all of that. You've got the Jalen situation. What insight can we give about Mr. Brokeback? And first and foremost, he did have a baby. That was 100% true. Congratulations. Nothing better than that. He also had some other situations that were going on during that time. But what do you kind of recall with all of that?
I guess the first, or really the only deciding factor in the Jalen thing, go to the Texans game, week 2, I guess. I don't remember exactly when it was. He had that whole thing on the sideline. He thought he had picked the ball off. They called it incomplete. Him and Marone had their little spat on the sideline. It was done with them there. That's how they both felt from what I've been told. Marone and Jalen, they both were heated in the moment. It is what it is. Move on. Well, when it got into the locker room, kind of like what you're saying, who's in charge? Someone told Jalen he needed to go apologize. Jalen didn't feel like he needed to apologize. And when Jalen got to talking to, it was in an open door in front of people. At that point, like you said, once the respect's gone, he was done. He went home, texted his agent, and from then on, it was done. He was never going to play in Jacksonville again, which he did end up playing the next game, the Titans Thursday night game, I think it was.
Right.
But the way that we all saw it, he stayed on the field forever, kind of looked around, walked off. If anyone stayed, which a lot of people did because we won, you could tell. I mean, the writing was on the wall. He wasn't ever going to play again for us. And he kind of hinted at that before the game, like publicly, I guess I should say. And from then on, it just was what it was. He was taking those flights to LA to, see what he had out there. Not related to the Rams, but, he had his little side thing going on. He had his baby, he went back to Nashville for that, and his back hurt. So he had all that crazy stuff going on. The Jalen stuff was my first notable scooping of information. I had someone who had his information of the planes he was flying, so it was easy to tell when he was getting picked up, when he was landing, and then when he was coming back. So a lot of people, when I tweeted he was flying to Denver or flying back to Jacksonville to meet with the team to fly to Denver, that was the first big, you don't know what you're talking about. You're wrong. I think News4Jax picked it up because I said it on my podcast, the Bold Take, if anyone wants to follow that. We go about once a week, every other week now in the off season, but it's pretty fun, real. Anyway, side note, they get that going on. And that was that. He was gone. He was done. He came back, played, or he didn't play. He flew to Denver. The Jaguars won the game. That was Minshew's fun game. He might be for real, in a sense of being a gamer. Maybe having more than we thought he had. And the rest is history, as they say. Traded for 2 first-round picks and a later-round pick not much long after.
Right, which now is looking now it's getting even weirder now that he opened, I guess, he unarchived all his pictures from Jacksonville.
Yep.
Life ain't as great out on the left coast as we think, but that's part of the game. Again, immaturity, it happens. He's not the first nor the last, and he's a good talent, so he'll be fine. Going back to Unique, what's unique about the Unique story, or is there any kind of context that you can provide some of us? Because I'm not gonna lie, at first I'm still pro player, so I'm still team Yannick, but I also believe that he may have played his cards wrong.
Yeah, I agree that too. Initially, I was all pay him, but now we're getting to the point well, what's going to happen for him? Is he actually going to sit out? Because that's the way it sounds. But when he does sit out, that's 19 million and change that he's not going to get. He's only made 4 and change his whole career. So he doesn't have the luxury of Le'Veon Bell. You know what I mean? People were like, well, Le'Veon Bell did it. It can happen. And I mean, it could happen. I totally believe it could happen. I think there's a real possibility it does happen. But the Ngakoue stuff is interesting because last summer, the numbers came out that, he had been offered a deal, and the per year money on the deal seemed good, right? I don't remember what exactly it was, but I think it came out to 19 million, something like that. It was a 4-year deal the way they had it written up, right? What people didn't realize though, that 4-year deal came after last year. It was an addition. It didn't start then. So essentially, it was a 5-year deal plus 2 million that he made last year on that number that was reported. It was either like 74 or 76. So that number drops down to the 16 million range. If you think you're a $20 million end and you're getting offered $16 million, why would you sign that deal? You know what I mean? And then he doesn't, he eventually doesn't sign a deal. He plays the whole year out on the last year of his contract, which, again, going back to what we were talking about before, players that maybe didn't deserve the contracts when they got them, got the job security in case they were injured, got their guaranteed money. And now he's playing in the last year of his deal on a little sum of money for how good he is, and he has no job security. So he feels completely disrespected. And like you said, being pro player, I completely understand it. And I also agree with where we're at now towards the end of it. He's still in Jacksonville. He's still under the tag. He hasn't signed it, but it doesn't sound like anything is, on the horizon for him in terms of getting out. So right. I don't know if he's going to play or if he's not going to play. That's, down the road. We got a long way to go.
Yeah. It's a couple. I think he's going to play for quite a few reasons. Not necessarily because he likes the Jags. It's because the one thing that is more important for a player than it is the accrued season. So you got to get the 46 games. And the way it comes out with I think it's almost a miller game. Mm-hmm. So you only got to play 4 to 6. I think 6 years is what he'll be going. 6 games is what he'll go for. Even if he comes and plays 6 and doesn't play the other ones, he still gets what he needs. And the Jags are not going to cut him because you're not going to get rid of him for free. So where I'm concerned, and maybe you can give some more context to this before we move into some other things I think more fan oriented. What are the players' thoughts of the cons? Because everybody was talking about, my gripe with Unique came from, okay, stop talking cryptically, stop talking in circles. When he added Tony Khan, to me, that let me know who his real gripe was with. It wasn't with Dave. It wasn't with Doug. It wasn't with necessarily management. He skipped management and went to ownership. Is that reading a little bit too much into it, or is there something that may be there?
So this is just me thinking, not fact, but him and Tony apparently had a very tight relationship to where they were calling each other brother on Instagram in previous years. So I feel like for Jan, it was him like, me and you used to be really cool, and I'm completely burned by the organization that you're a part of, that you're running, that your dad owns. You know what I mean? And I guess Tony's a minority owner, to where if I'm going to lash out, because we've seen him at the Jaguars, like who cares? Everyone does that when they're upset. But he got really personal with it. And, if me and you were friends forever and you were upset at me or I was upset at you, you wouldn't at who I work for. You know what I mean? You would come straight to me because that's going to really, drive the point home. I know why you're upset and I know who you're upset with. So I think that was more of like just direct. You know where I stand. You know what I want. You know what I'm about. And you're not about helping me get there when you have the keys to do it. So I just think it was more personal. I think he just really wanted to drive that point home. And then I don't think he was expecting Tony to snap back like he did.
Yeah. Which I will say, from a personal level, I like it. Yeah. Professional level, I don't. And I'll say this why, because you should not get in the muck like that as management, because no matter what, whether you're in the complete right, and I know a lot of fans buy into, especially Jaguar fans, they're like, this is us, either you're for us or you're against us, which is ironic because all I did for a month was field nothing but bitching and moaning about the Jags playing in London, what that front office is doing, and how the Jags are taking so you would think they'll be more player centric, but I get it. But if I'm a vet and I'm looking to be and I'm a free agent, and I'm looking to come in, and I'm looking at how the front office or with the room, because you just got a mark with Tom Coughlin here about we would request you not sign there. So that's already so the guys who are bottom barrel free agents, you may have to pay a little bit more to get now, or you're only going to get bottom barrel guys. On top of the owner out here arguing with players on Front Street, like as we call it, as opposed to behind closed doors. No matter what you feel, Tony didn't start it; he finished it. But cool, you got the love there. So I think that's something. Bigger than that is something that was really interesting to me. Is that because if they don't change it now, in 4 or 5 years, we're going to see this continuous, perpetual turning the wheel. Fournette agent, CJ's agent, Yannick's agent, all Rock Nation.
Yeah.
And they're looking at how this is going, and it's like, why would you deal with it if it doesn't change? And this is just where we got to ride it out. What right, wrong, and indifferent. That's what my fear would be.
Yeah, and like you said, I think it was lose-lose. Like at the end of the day, for both parties, the back and forth on Twitter. For my entertainment, I thought it was hilarious.
Right.
But something to note too, I believe Jan's agent got fired from Rock Nation.
Oh.
So it doesn't, change your point, but I don't think he's a part of that anymore. So that makes me think, where is the relationship though with the players and Yannick now that they're not represented by the same? They had different agents, but the dome was the same, right? So I don't know if it actually matters, if that part of it actually matters, but it is interesting, and I do agree. And I always thought that it could have something to do with Rock Nation, just how they viewed the Jaguars, which was leading to the spats, because Fournette was repped by the same guy, but he just got a new agent recently this year.
Okay. I mean, that's something too. Jacksonville, small market. I think a lot of Jalen's actions were – because I hear a lot of agents always talk about ain't no money in Jacksonville, like for your person. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I don't know about that. If a guy like me can have somebody essentially pay for them to have a radio show, imagine what Leonard Fournette can get from a car dealership or from some store or something like that if he's going there. There's plenty of money to be made. You just have to not be a jerk and be good. Because I've seen how the legends of the Jaguars are treated, like the guys like Big Spears, Big John, who I've played cards with, smoke cigars. These guys are treated like icons, and it's weird. Like, it's only in Jacksonville can you probably have that happen. But again, you remember all the playoff runs that these guys, like Tony Baselli, is in our Hall of Fame. It's in the Jaguar Hall of Fame, no matter what. Like, I mean, actually, technically, he's in the Ring of Honor, but he may not ever make the Hall of Fame. But to the Jaguars fans, he will always be that guy. Again, if you're just in case you're just getting in or you're tuning into this on the podcast, this is my man E. Dilla D. I call him the People's Insider because again, there's nothing for him doing this from what he says, except for he gets some really good info and he just feels like he should share it with the people because you should know, which I think that deserves more follows and more love at E_Dilla on the Twitter. We got some comments. We got one comment here. Two. Miles was the best fit, attitude-wise, and character pays. Okay, I don't really know. Like, I know a bunch of terrible guys that got paid a lot of money. Your skill pays, and they probably felt that they could manipulate that and pay everybody. They gambled wrong. And one guy said, "Did they offer a deal to Yannick?" And I think that's the thing that most people don't understand. He was not offered a new deal. And you brought this up, so just to clarify, he was not offered a new deal. He was offered a contract extension. So no matter what, he was playing 2019 for $2 to $2.5 million. So what he decided to do was, if I'm going to play for $2 million no matter what, I'm going to gamble on myself, see if I perform, and then see what the market dictates for me to make. Now, unfortunately, nobody can predict a pandemic. and quarantine and a lot of other stuff that happens. So he's sitting here with and then also the way that they handle it, both sides, very few offers for him. So right now, the only offer he has is the franchise tag, which is a little bit more than what his per average year would have been had he signed it. So he would only make 2.5, but it would average out to about 16 mil a year. I believe it's that the adjusted franchise tag is about 17 million right now. So, and my boy David Dupree brought up, what do you think about the guys that they brought in? It seems to me like it's a bunch of quality boys. Is that the feel? Is that the vibe? Or are they really happy like with the draft picks and the free agents they brought in, that this can be a team that can do more than praise the Lord, but actually possibly make a playoff run?
So the draft picks, I don't know how they feel about that. I feel like drafting ninth, they kind of got screwed just by the way the board fell. Okuda went, Brown went, Simmons went, which apparently they weren't going to take Simmons, so thank God he got drafted, so we don't have to be upset about that. We'll just pretend like, they were going to draft him so we can keep smiling and sleeping good at night. But I saw a list of their free agent guys that they wanted, and they got almost every single one of them. So they must feel happy, you know what I'm saying, to get a whole list of players and missing out on just a few, two of them, I think. I don't know if it's because they're planning on, laying a base for moving forward. Because if you look at it, a lot of guys they're the solid guys that you need if you have a good roster.
Right.
Most of them they're not the flashy playmakers. But, I mean, we just got them last week. But having someone like a Chris Thompson is such a change to our offense. So is he going to, start every game and run for 1,500 yards? No. But is he a change of pace from what Fournette offers you? Is he good receiving or, in the receiving game? Can he hit the hole and go if it's there? Yeah. And that's different than what we've had. Eifert, it's an old head signing at tight end if he's healthy. It's better than we've had, but that doesn't say much, Switching to 3-4, or as they've kind of talked about doing, I think a couple of the signings make more sense. The guy from Arizona, Rodney Gunner, I like that guy. I think he's going to have a really good season. He played 3-4 end for them. I thought initially when we signed him, he'd be playing that big end, replacing Campbell. I think we're crazy, though, if we think that they're going to make a playoff run. Right. I think it more points to laying a foundation, having some solid guys on really reasonable deals. Looking forward into next year, we have $120 million in cap. It might be more that we've moved Foles now. I haven't looked at it, since then. But that's a chunk of money. Now, like you said earlier, the NFLPA says think twice before going there. And that seems totally reasonable with what they dealt with before with Coughlin. I think now that he's gone, they seem to be it's really weird, but I hear that Dave Caldwell's thought highly of in the league. Don't know if it's by agents or other execs. But the more I hear that, the more I understand why he's around. Now, if we look at his draft picks in the past, you're like, well, that doesn't matter how nice of a guy he is. But you kind of when people tell me that stuff, things make a little more sense.
I think he does a good job of picking. But I think he does a good job of picking draft picks. Just does a terrible job of keeping them outside of Taven Bryan, which I still don't understand. I think there are people who would be fired for draft picks like that. But that just could be maybe that's my Florida disdain, or maybe that's just my disdain for crappy players. But that just didn't make any sense. When I look at it, I think it was 6 or 7 guys that he drafted or brought in through the undrafted free agent, rookie free agent pool have been top 100 players. You don't get that at one point. You don't get that by accident. The problem is trying to keep those guys so that they can develop some kind of synergy, and you get better. And finding a coach that these guys can actually perform. He's under his third coach, because he would have been here for Malarkey too, right? Or was he over here?
I think he got him and Gus are hired together.
Okay, so that makes sense. So I mean, that's the only thing that bothers me a little bit, but I can definitely understand Obviously, when you have longevity, that alone, whether you deserve it or not, that alone gives you some respect in the league. So, as a Jag, you made a statement that I 100% agree with. I believe that this is a 5-win team at max right now. But I cover the Jaguars. I am a Jaguar fan because my sons live in Jacksonville. Were born and bred in Jacksonville, and when you start going to school around here, like you become a Jaguar fan de facto. So I spend a credible amount of money on making sure that my oldest son is happy with his Jaguar jerseys and things like that. So as a Jaguar fan who's known nothing but the Jaguars, how does it feel to actually really know that it's going to take a miracle to like make the playoffs? Is that acceptable? And I really just let you take it from there.
So, is it acceptable? No, I'm not okay with losing. I think losing sucks. But do I understand the situation? Yes. Do we have something at quarterback that's more entertaining than we've had recently? Yes. Do we have the possibility, if he falls flat on his face, to get another quarterback in the draft that could elevate us? Yes. And two of them. I'm high on Fields and Lawrence. I don't know how you feel about either of them. I would be perfectly fine with either of them. Right now, I have zero preference. If we pick first overall, I would not care which one they took. I think they're both good players. Now, if we, pull it back in this season going forward for the Jaguars, 5 or 6 wins would be okay if they compete. Last year they won 6 games, but when they lost, they got the crap beat out of them, and that's not fun at all. As a season ticket holder, which I'm not buying season tickets this year just to be petty towards the organization. I'll be there every week still. I go to away games. I do the whole 9 there when it comes to financially supporting the team. I still don't think it's okay to be where they're at as a team for this long. But I understand the vision. I see the vision moving forward now that Coughlin's gone. When they fired Coughlin, a lot of things got better for me. I wish they would have cleaned house completely. I still would hope they do that next year if they're bad again, which they probably will be bad again. But I guess it's really all in Minshew's hands. And when it's in the quarterback's hands, things are exciting.
Your thoughts on Gardner Minshew?
So last night, as you saw, I threw a grenade onto the timeline. That thing was going around, most overrated, best newcomer, the whole 9. Well, I immediately thought, who's everyone's favorite player or most hyped player? Well, it's the quarterback with the question mark on how good is he going to be, what's he going to offer us. And then if you think about how he's treated in Jacksonville, how he's portrayed, what people think he's going to be, a lot of people think he's the answer already. A lot of people, if you talk about Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields, they turn their nose at you because they think you're crazy for even thinking he isn't going to be a top 15 guy, which is just insane to me. So I labeled Minshew as the most overrated player on the team. Do I think Minshew's going to be a bad quarterback? No, I think his tool bag is really great. He's got tools. He's a gamer. He's got it between the ears. But we saw last year, if you keep him in the pocket, you don't let him get outside, he's going to struggle. We saw it first in the Saints game. They kept him in the pocket with a mush rush. They bracketed DJ Chark, and things were bad. I mean, the game was in Jacksonville. I think it was a close game because Breeze was hurt, and they didn't score that many points. But, man, it was boring. And as I said earlier, what we like so much about him is he's fun to watch. Well, if you can keep him in a phone booth, he's not fun to watch. And if he can't get the ball out, then what does he actually offer you as a quarterback? His job is to get the ball to the receivers. So I last night wasn't saying he's a bad quarterback, and I wasn't saying last night I think he's going to be bad, guaranteeing he's bad. But I think the way people prop him up isn't maybe necessary just yet.
My opinion on him is that, like you said, it's very exciting to watch. If you ever found a guy that could probably embody what a majority of the Jacksonville Jaguar fans, Jacksonvillians or whatever however you say are, it probably would be Gardner. We joked on my show, The Sports Den, about how I actually liked Gardner when he wasn't talking because there was a level of mystique.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was a guy I want to have a beer with until he started talking, and I'm like, okay, well, he might be kind of weird, but then he does the jorts thing and the mustache, and people like that. But you brought up a really good point. There's only really one quarterback that I've seen be able to do what he's able to do very well, and that's Russell Wilson. I think the traditional way the game is played is drop back, and he does a terrible job of making his reads. And when I say that, and it might not be him doing a terrible job as much as I personally do not believe the Jacksonville Jaguars have a true number one wide receiver. You have a great number two wide receiver that could develop into a number one wide receiver, in DJ Chark, which is kind of what I believe Allen Robinson and what I believe Allen Hurns were, really top tier number two wide receivers, but not on par with guys who your first look could take the top off of a defense. So when you don't have that and you have a guy who can scramble around and do scramble drill, guys like DJ Chark are perfect for that. Like he's going to get open. He's got speed and he can do the scramble drill very well, which does not help you win. That's the problem. And to his defense, he doesn't have a chance with a turnstile and at left tackle. And Cam, which he could be, Cam Robinson could still be coming off of the knee injury. I don't care. You didn't get it done. Now, right tackle Juwan Taylor did his job, and then interiorly, it was hit or miss between which guard and center decided that they wanted to fuck it up. But that's a lot that you have to bank on to make one play be successful. And what it does is it prevents you from setting plays up. So, which is what the NFL is about. Everybody sees the Sports Center highlight, very exciting, but what it really is the 3-yard game, 4-yard game that sets up 5 times, that set up the big 50-yard game because you love the defensive state. And I don't believe that he's the quarterback that can do that. Now, we have a question from Charlie Kill 891 on the Twitter. What if Minshew is the guy? What kind of season would he and the Jags need to have?
If Minshew is the guy, I think we can't right now get wrapped up in the record because we don't know what the defense is going to offer. If the defense is shit awful and he has, puts up a really good year and we go 6-10, 7-9, that's not his fault. You know what I'm saying? If he's putting points up, which I think that's what it comes down to. Like you said, Minshew's highlight reel is insane. Minshew's whole game film isn't there yet. It's not exciting because, like you said, when it's not the big flashy play, there's nothing there. There's no setup. I think they said between 10 yards and 19 yards, he was the least accurate quarterback in the league, 52%. That doesn't get it done. You know what I mean? So with what he's saying, I just need Minshew to, one, they need to win. They have to win games. They need to compete. And he just has to look like it. You know what I mean? You can't really describe it, but when you see it, it's there. And last year we saw flashes of it, but we didn't see anything that was near consistent.
Right. And I think the problem is he puts you if he is it, it puts you in a really, because I don't think this team is not good enough for the playoffs right now. You would have to see a lot more in the first 6 games. Like they would really have to, for me to believe that they're a playoff team, they'd have to go 4-2 in the first 6 games. Which is a lot, asking a lot. Maybe 3-3, but they're still asking a lot. Because at a certain point, let's say after they win 5 games, that 6th, 7th, 8th win are detrimental to your draft position. And if you don't get to 9, probably 10 this year, you're not going to make the playoffs. So that's a 5-game swing that I just, looking at the schedule and who the Jags play, I just can't see. I can't wake up and say, oh, we're going to beat this team. Because it's just not in the cards right now. Not because of just the quarterback, but totality of the team. You still have, you're running a 3-4 with some pieces to run a 3-4, but what is Taven? Is Taven a 3 technique? Is he going to be the 5 now? You're going to expect him to be that in? I'm not 100% sure if I want to see that. Who's your nose? Is it the rookie from Ohio State, who's probably the only person on your roster with the real size to be able to play nose? But I don't know if I want to put that pressure on the rookie. And do I want to now expect a Kayvon, I think that's his name, the defensive end from LSU? Do I expect him to come in? Are we really going to have Unique and Josh Allen? I got both of them coming off the edges in the 3-4. Okay, I'm a little bit more excited. What is Miles Jack's role? Like, because we know Miles Jack is out there freestyle at times. Now, Schobert, I like Schobert at the mic. I think that whether you run a 4-3 or a 3-4, he now gives you a better version of Paz at this point in his career. I didn't like Paz when they brought Paz in, but I respect what Paz was to that 2017 team now. If nothing else, you need, like we joke, you need a white guy to be able to help line up all the players. Like, for some reason, every team I've ever played on had that guy. If nothing else, that was his job, and he was good at it. But it's so many what ifs that it's hard to like just make a bank. Actually, that comes into what Jonathan Bearcat says on the Twitter. How big of an impact do you think Joe Sherbert will have on our defense? And the question that a lot of people are continuing to ask, and that's why I had to make sure you were cool. Yes, people, Dilla is white. But that's okay, man. I love it, man. I love it.
I'm actually Joe Sherbert. No. I think Sherbert's best, like what he's going to offer the team that is going to be different, is he's going to have people lined up in the right spot, kind of like you were touching on a second ago. I also think as a pass defending linebacker, he's going to be really impressive. Now, against the run, he's shaky, which if you look at his frame, that's not surprising. But if they're playing that 3-4, you're getting more, weird angles, goofy angles on blitzes. He was a double-digit sack guy at Wisconsin. So I think, having that weird linebacker who can run, who can line up in a couple spots because he's got it between the ears, he's going to offer a lot to a team that really wasn't good on defense at all last year. Like you said, I'm excited to watch him play. Against the run, I'm still kind of suspect of what he's going to offer. But when the quarterback drops back, I'm pretty excited to see what he does.
We touched on the tight end position a little bit. We got William Coleman on the Facebook who's asking, what do you expect to see from our tight ends this year? Basically, that's I think that position should flourish, because I will give Minshew props on that early in the season. He was, before O'Shaughnessy got hurt, he was looking for that check down to the tight end. And if we have a tight end that can catch and stretch, which Eifert's been able to do, show that he has the ability to do, we could actually finally have something that's a little bit more than Mercedes, who I used to joke, Mercedes is not, he's my age, but in NFL years, he's like old Yeller. It's about time to take him out of the pasture. But he was so slow that people forgot he was in coverage. Like, he was actually there, so they just left him wide open. So Bortles was able to throw to him. So I think this time we actually have a threat, and it really just all depends on what the OC is able to do. Is he really as innovative as he was almost a decade ago? Which the game has changed so much when you look at what KC is doing, what you look at what other people are doing, but. Well, I guess we'll have to see.
And for me with the tight end, O'Shaughnessy is probably going to start the year on the bench coming off his knee injury. So if you look at our schedule, the front half of it's pretty weak. The first 6 games, like you said, they could make a nice little run and then have the rug pulled out from under them. But if Eifert can stay healthy and O'Shaughnessy comes back, I think they're going to be pretty nice at tight end for the first time in a really, really long time. So it's kind of exciting for me. And then when you have, more than one guy who can get it done, that guy they drafted in the late round who is an athlete, he's projected to be a project and maybe later down the road offer you something. He's not going to be forced into play. He's not going to have that, confidence killing games or anything like that. So the FCS guy called him Baby Kelsey or something like that. We had a guest, Justice Mosqueda, who's been like CBS Sports and was working for the XFL and scouting. He even said, he could become something legit down the road. He jokingly called him Tony Gonzalez as a joke. Don't anyone go running crazy with that. But it's kind of cool when you do have maybe something down the line when they're not forced to play right away, and we all just turn it over with he stinks, he's not good, it was a waste of a draft pick. And then we also have Josh Oliver, who was a relatively high draft pick, who injured his hamstring before the season started, didn't really get going, played in a game, hurt his back, out for the year. He's a total question mark, but he's more of a stretching tight end. Get him the ball and let him run. And that's more different than what you're going to get out of Eifert now that he's up in age. And even O'Shaughnessy's a little bit bigger of a guy, even though he was really good in the pass game last year. So that's another like question mark plus position. I think highly of him, but I don't know what I'm going to get.
I'm also interested in what they're going to do at the full. If they're going to really bring in a fullback, because that's what helps Leonard Fournette flourish is when you actually have that. Again, that completely changes your offense. Also, how they use the black? I just call him the Black Russian. I don't learn names until they make the roster. But my man from Colorado, especially if he's coming back healthy, his ability, how explosive he is to be able to make plays. He's an actual. They got him as a slot receiver, but at like 6 foot 215. I mean, he's damn near a glorified H-back, and I mean he's a bigger guy. So that's a weapon. And again, it just really depends on if we Jaguar fans can sit back and have anticipation of an offensive coordinator who can actually set up and draw up plays, which is something that we have not seen probably in decades. So nobody. I mean, I don't want to get anybody's hopes up, but that's what it would take. You actually have a bunch of and I think this is where Caldwell does get props, is really his picks in the later rounds have done relatively well. And again, the problem isn't picking the talent; the problem is putting the talent on a field of play and making sure that they can consistently get it done. And I think that's where a lot of fans are wondering what's going to happen. Again, this is my man E. Dilla from Twitter fam. Yes, he's white and he's got the beard, and yes, he is the people's insider. He has, again, he does it unlike a lot of us who do this for a profession. He does this purely to make sure that the fan is involved and engaged and knows exactly what has happened. Trying to think if there's any other. Just talk to me about how cool was it? And I think because I've met Leonard 3 occasions. I met him at the Under Armour All-American game where I joked about it on the call, where I called his school in front of all of his family from New Orleans the Purple Pump, and I immediately said why, because I had tons of friends who played at St. Augustine. Former Jaguar Lonnie Martz played at St. Augustine High School. I met him again. He did actually the week he was suspended, right, for not coming. The gym I used to work at Chief Fitness in Fleming Island, we came to film a commercial for Monster headphones. And, of course, he was late. But he was very cool. Then when I saw him the next year in Cleveland, when we went on the run. No, he went on the run as sophomore. I mean, his freshman. I mean, not freshman. His rookie year. So I saw him in Cleveland later that was it. Yeah, it was freshman. I saw him in Cleveland later that year. Or did we play Cleveland in 17? Anyways, I saw him in Cleveland when when the Jags played in Cleveland. I was going up there for a Jags concert. Every time I've ever seen him, it's been nothing but really cool, really laid back, very personable. A lot of fans just would not believe that for whatever reason because of what you get. I'm telling you, some of these guys are just mad chill if you come with a certain level of respect. But talk to us a little bit about the draft call, the draft Zoom call, and how cool was it, and who are some of the notable guests, and what are some things about these guys that people really wouldn't know?
Sorry, my roommate just got home. Dogs are about to get crazy for a second. But let me shut the door. But no, Fournette, the Fournette Zoom call was one, I didn't know about it until he jumped into the meeting. That was our buddy Solly. We went to the Denver game this past year, and we got in there kind of early. Solly had gotten a football thrown to him from Fournette pregame. Are the dogs really annoying?
No, you're good. Keep on.
All right, cool. So we got in the game early, and like I said, he threw us the ball, and it was pretty chill to the fact that, like, you know, he yelled like, "Hey, you got a nice arm, huh?" So it was more personable. Well, after the game, he had a big game in Denver. He ran for 2 bills or whatever. He did the Monday night show at Mellow Mushroom with Calais Campbell, right? Solly lives around the corner. He went there, signed the football. Solly's got a kid too, so they kind of talked about being a dad and all that fun stuff. Man, I'm so sorry. It's killing me.
Yeah, man.
So Solly and him have kind of had a cool relationship, just talking here and there. Well, Solly had shot him the link the day before, like, "Hey, we're gonna be doing this. If you want to come by, like, swing through." So day of the draft comes around, next day. He hits Solly up like, "Hey, like, I'll be chilling if you guys want to, like, send it to me." So Solly shoots it to him. Well, Fournette shows up literally as Goodell's announcing the first pick, and Buddy stays until pick like 24, 25, 26. So he came and he hung out for a long time. And kind of like you said, laid back, chill. He was kind of quiet to start. He was kind of like reading the room. But like you said, you come with a certain level of respect, and he had a good time. It was like one of the boys hanging out. You joined us on the second day and got to hang out again. Scobie came through. He had Jalen Ramsey on the call. He not like physically on Zoom, but he brought him up on FaceTime on his phone and hung out. And that like experience made that draft memorable in a sense of like how many people got to hang out with a player who on the field maybe doesn't, like, you know, check all the boxes for you because he's kind of underperformed in a sense, like not his fault. He was overdrafted in my opinion. You shouldn't take, you know, that guy at 4. Really, really cool dude though. Gets it done on the field in a sense. And he was just so cool, man. And the stories he told us, the insight he gave us, which a lot of it he would, you know, like, you can record it and show whoever you want. And then he would talk to us and also be like, "Hey, like, put your phones down. Don't record this part. Like, I want to keep this in here," which showed, even, you know, we had only been talking to him for an hour or two. The respect level was there. He understood where we were coming from. We were just a bunch of dudes watching the draft, having a good time, busting jokes. He was busting jokes. He was one of the funniest dudes in there. And it was a really good time. And then, like I said, you came day 2 and hung out for a little bit, so you can kind of touch on what it was like also. But I had a blast, man, the whole time. It was so cool.
Nah, man, it was really dope. I mean, the thing is that most people, I view myself as a regular guy anyway. I just have some really cool experiences in life, and for whatever reason, people pay me to have an opinion. So, you know, but outside of that, I mean, it was really just dope chopping up a couple of guys I knew. We joked about the one guy who, you know, has a daughter. Don't ask me for advice about your daughter, because I'm going to give you the advice that somebody gave me about mine, and it's world shattering at first, but you don't want it. But that one got kind of funny. Got a reaction out of Leonard. Leonard said something like, "Show of hands, who all talked shit about me when I wasn't playing well," and it was like, it was great, man. I mean, like I said, those are some of the things that I think a lot of fans have to like. I think really it's the way people consume media now, and that's why we do our show a little bit different. I could be as ESPN and button up as people want, but that's not entertaining, and you can go get that from everywhere else. Most people want to have a dialogue and a conversation and feel like they're included, and I believe that a lot of these players do that. And as a guy who was a former player, you really crave that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you really want to not feel like you're always the superhero and you always have this cape on, because it gets burdensome and then you can't ever rest and relax. And what you find is, if I could tell you a secret that was like really, really bad about somebody and it never gets out to anybody else, then I probably will have, and you'll probably get more and more information, which, you know, I think that's cool. And I think that, again, that's a side that a lot of people need to see. That's why I wish a lot more of the guys would at least come on our show and let's just talk. We don't even got to talk about football. Let's just talk and let people see a different side of you. But it was dope. Plus, which is part of the reason why I was like, when I saw they would like my boy up and my boy causing trouble stirring the pot, I was like, let me get Dilla on now and I'll let people meet D Dilla, because like when we've had our conversations offline, I'm like, man, this dude is cool. And I thought he was black. And then when I seen him, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. He's even cooler now that he's nothing like what I thought he was going to be, but it doesn't change anything. But again, it's just all dope, man. And well, man, like I said, I appreciate you coming on, spending this hour with me, man. This was dope. It's going wild. We had a good amount of views. I'm sure the Facebook will be dope. This will be on the Sports Den live on SoundCloud, Google Play, or iTunes. We'll make sure that gets uploaded later today. And tell them again the podcast and what all you got going.
Yeah, man. So kind of like you said with your show, like different than the rest. We just have a good time on the pod. We cover the Jaguars. We talk about the games going on, but we have super cool guests that come on. And like you said, we don't really want to talk to them about football when we have the players come on or the ex-players come on. Like, just tell me about what kind of dude you are, what you're into. And you can find us on we're called the Bold Take Pod on Twitter. It's just three dudes, me, Solly, and Bold City Cap. A lot of people know who he is. We just shoot the shit, honestly, man. We have a good time. We don't take ourselves too seriously. We do some interactive segments on Twitter. We'll ask some questions. We have super cool guests that come on. Hopefully going to get Austin Lane on soon, and Fournette's maybe going to come on too. So you never know what we're going to get.
All right, cool, man. Let me know if I ever can get on.
Hey, whenever you want, bro. We're looking for guests now that we're in the off season.
Bet. All right, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, Dylan.
Thanks, no problem, man. I'll see you around.